look what I figured out how to do. This is the first time I've been able to talk into the camera. How many of you have a tube of paint like this? Can you see that? Yeah. I inherited that, and I've never even tried to open this one. What I'd like to show you is how to maintain your tubes of paint so they never get like this. What's the point of having them if you can't even get into them? So what I've been doing to start off this painting season is to go through all my tubes of paint and do preventative maintenance on them. And then I thought I'd tackle some of these projects. I should show you a few tricks that I've learned, and I'll show you where I'm working. If I can just aim the camera down there. Okay, it's a messy job, as you can see. What I do when I have a stuck tube, I don't use the hot water treatment because I just carry a lighter around with me when I'm in the field painting or in my studio. It's just easier, and it's quicker than hot water. Just to warm up the oils that have coagulated there on the rim. Then it comes off easily, no struggle, and you don't twist up your tube. I always keep a pair of pliers with me too, but now that I've been doing maintenance on my tubes and the ones that I came into by people giving them to me, I don't hardly ever use my lighter anymore. But what I do then is I remove the old paint from around the threads. There's no point just getting the tube off, or the lid off, and then putting it back on. I don't use my palette knife for this. I've heard of people doing that, and it's really, I value my palette knives too much, even my old ones, to do this job. And they don't have as good of a cutting edge. What I do is I get right down to the metal. I also use this tool. I don't even know what it is, but I keep it with my paints because it's so handy for so many things. And I go into the threads and remove, I don't know if you can see that, I remove everything right down to the metal. It does come off even though it looks permanent, because there's no point leaving it there just to firm up again once you put the lid back on it. So I won't belabor this point, but you see what I'm doing. I've just spent about 12 studio hours doing this with all my paints. Then what I do is, after I've wiped the extras off, I haven't taken it all off just for the sake of shortness of video, then I put a layer of Vaseline on. I don't need a lot. The point is just to have a thin film to prevent anything solidifying. Vaseline doesn't solidify. Now that's only half of the job. The rest is getting the hardened paint out of the lid. Some of these I've done, they'd look like you're never going to get that out of there. But you know, this little tool, I just dig away. And this is actually, it looks like, wow, why fuss about a lid? But as long as there's paint sitting down in this rim, it doesn't allow for a good seal when you put the tube back on. Any amount of paint in there, I feel like you've got to seat that the tube, not just thread on the top, the first few threads, but to be able to thread it right back down in there. So this really does, it's painstaking, but I have removed a lot of sediment, I guess you could call it, particles, and that just keeps things from oxidizing. when you do put it back together. You can really get quite a lot out. I will get it all out, but not right now. So then, now that I've got this lubricated, I put the lid back on and I take it off a couple times just to make sure that it's spread evenly through the threads, and I never crank it on hard. I used to, in the old days, think I had to lock that paint in there and all the air out, but actually no. It just makes more struggle, and I haven't found any loss as a result of just putting it on just finger tight. So that being cleaned, the next step is I like to once in a while, no, this one's going to be kind of difficult just because, just to have the tube more ready to use and less down here in the bottom. This is a spare. It's just an Academy, so it's not that great of a tube of paint, which is why I don't use it. It's in my bin of spares. I had a nifty idea, and that is, instead of other people searching for paint, if they have too much of one color and I have too much of one color, or I have spares like this that they would like, I think a paint exchange in my locality would be a really good idea. I'm trying to start that up somehow, and I'm looking for cobalt, and somebody might be looking for red. I have a lot of different reds that I don't use, so I just think that's a really practical way, keeping the tubes working by preventing buildup. And what I'm going to do with this, I've decided, is I'm going to rip off the bottom with my pliers. It's useless to me the way it is, and I could struggle with it, but I don't even want this. I think if I'm going to play with it a bit, and if I like the color that's in here, I've got so much of this, I will just dump this one. Or I may put it in, I've been putting them in little containers in the freezer when I've had to do this with an old wrecked tube. Anyway, I believe in maintenance because I don't like shopping for new stuff. Thanks for watching.